before I knew that Gabriel was in 1989. That's just strange. Weird. Black Saturday, 138. Ming Yuen, 138. Western Park, 142. Powerful is 116. Hurricanes, 116. I guess that's all I know. That's it. That's all I know. It's 8:27, Friday, 30th of August, 2019. I've been gone for a while, so this is probably like carried over into another video or something by now, because my camera splits them up. 8:27 is 10:27. Friday the 30th of August and Saturday the 31st. 14 hours difference between east coast of the United States and the east coast of Australia. Okay, I think what we'll do now is we will shift the focus over there, and I'll go over there. Go over here. I've got the TV on CNN. I think it's on live time. I think I should kind of like change my camera angle. Like that? No. Like that, or like that. Yeah, that's probably going to be better. Yeah, might do. Like that, yeah. Yeah, that's pretty good. And now, see where I can go do what I can do. I've had it on CNN for ages, so we can catch up on what is happening with the hurricane. I think I'm on live time now. Yes, I am. So if we go back, I can show you this morning's reports by going back in time. And I might go back a fair way, because there were some good reports earlier with Tom Seda, who is the meteorologist on CNN. And he's one of the meteorologists, and he's pretty good at explaining hurricanes, as is Jeff Masters. And like I said, Jeff Masters was really lucky not to die in Hurricane Hugo back in the day. This is Tom Seda on CNN. So I like his reports too. It's like you just connect with some people the way they explain things. And you connect with different people in different ways. And obviously I feel like I connect with the DJ. I can relate to him in some way. I can see reflections in him of other people I've known. And I can see that he's basically a good guy. He's got a loving heart. I can feel that. And I can feel that coming through from Jake and Nathan as well. Because I feel my spiritual connection with those boys is real. It's genuine. It's the real deal. And I call them the Storm Boys, not because Nathan died in a firestorm. It's got nothing to do with that. That's not why I call them the Storm Boys. But I do call them the Storm Boys. And it's got nothing to do with Hugo either. Like, it was a long time before I figured out that Hugo made landfall a month before Jake was kidnapped. That had nothing to do with why I started calling Jake the Storm Boy. That was to do with wedge-tailed eagles. And they enjoy riding the thermals on thunderstorms. So they like the turbulence, they like the updrafts. Wedge-tailed eagles. So I told the kids that I used to know that I said, oh, they're like, I call them the Storm Boys, Jake and Nathan. And I said, oh, the Eagle Boys. But the thing the kids remembered was eagles. Oh, the Eagle Boy, tell us about the Eagle Boy. So I used to have kids asking me to tell them the story again. Tell us about the Eagle Boy. And that's how they always referred to Jake. So Eagle Boy, Storm Boy, whatever you like. Oh yeah, this press conference was before the update, which was the one that it was the first one I saw today, in full at least. Yes, here it is, with Tom Sater. So I'm going to show you this, because it's a couple of hours ago now. But that's fine.
And we are back following our top story, which is Hurricane Dorian, which is now a Category 3 storm. We learned in an update that was given just a little while ago, almost 2 hours ago, that the storm may be changing direction, perhaps, and changing speed. Let's get an update on that now. Meteorologist Tom Sater is with us. And what do we know, Tom? What does this storm look like?
Well, it's really symmetrical. I mean, this is firing on all cylinders now, and when we get in closer, you're going to be able to see a well-defined eye. But on a broader issue here, notice the thunderstorms in Florida. I want to first mention they've had an extremely wet August and an extremely wet year. In fact, well above average. The ground is completely saturated. They can take no more. Now, with that said, they've got to put up with this. But there are some changes that we're looking at and have appeared in the last couple of hours. But first, let's get in a little bit closer. Look at this eye. Well-defined. See the colors of white? Convective outbreak of thunderstorms surrounding the core. This is like spinning a top on a table. It can only sustain that symmetry and that strength for so long. All tropical systems are the same way. Before that top on that table starts to wobble. I expect that to happen overnight. What happens then? The eye wall goes through what we call a replacement cycle. It means it's going to break down and those walls, those winds come out, they form a circle again, and they tighten back up. And then that engine starts purring again. This can happen several times in the life cycle of a cyclone. But each time that happens, those winds get stronger outward, stronger outward, stronger outward. So when you see the warnings now in parts of the Bahamas in red, you cannot fixate on where that center is because it's such a large, broad storm. And we're going to see that on the visual satellite imagery the next couple of days, right? It's going to get much, much bigger and take up the entire peninsula of Florida. Models are still in good agreement, but we're seeing some changes now. And they've been changing since the birth of this storm several days ago. Every day it's something new. But now we're seeing that kick to the north. The main job of a typhoon, hurricane, cyclone is to transfer its warmth from the warmer waters to the colder waters. That's all it wants to do, and it wants to take the path of least resistance. So it wants to go north. Well, high pressure, big ridges here, is suppressing that movement. And it's been pushing it to the south and pushing it westward. And that's why we've got a concern about landfall. You go into the two main models that we usually talk about. The U.S. model, it's GFS, and the European. 2 days ago, they were up to the north. Now they dropped to the south, and now they're putting on the brakes for the European model. In fact, we're starting to see some agreement. Here's same time, well, let's say, same time period. 8 p.m. Tuesday now. We still do not have landfall. We thought it was Sunday night, then Monday. Here it is. It's dropped a little bit too. Look at the European model. Further a little bit offshore. This is good news, Rick, because what we may see here when we put the two models together, the European stays off the shoreline now, and now the U.S. is starting to get in some agreement. Unfortunately, though, they'll probably take the middle of the two, and that could scrape the entire coastline for days, and that could be disastrous because this is a heavy populated area. One thing we know for sure, it's been constantly changing, and it may change again. As long as that trend is eastward, that could be the one ray of hope that everybody's been waiting for.
CNN meteorologist Tom Sater. Tom, thank you very much. And of course, we'll continue to keep our eye on the storm and bring you the very latest. We just learned from U.S. President Donald Trump that he will be monitoring the events from Camp David, the presidential retreat in suburban Washington, in Maryland, actually. And he also said that he will be returning to Washington, D.C. on Sunday morning, U.S. time, for a briefing involving FEMA, the Federal Emergency Management Agency. Of course, we will have all breaking details here on CNN, and we have more news when we come right back. Don't go away.
So it could be Dorian, the destroyer, or it could be Dorian, the DJ, messenger. I'm going with Dorian, the messenger, and that means the monster is Gabrielle. The monster is Gabrielle. She's the one that's going to be the destroyer. That's what it's not the first thing that came to me, but it's close. The first thing was Lorenzo. I think this is on...
Owie!
This is on the Great Barrier Reef.
Sunday to Thursday on CNN.
Welcome back. The health of the planet we call home is in danger. The climate crisis is impacting everything from glaciers to endangered species, even how much rain falls. And now it could claim another victim. The Great Barrier Reef just got a checkup, and the prognosis for now is critical. The Australian government says it has downgraded the reef's condition from poor to very poor in a new report that tracks its health every 5 years. It cites the main reason for the decline as climate change.
This reef has suffered in the last few years 6 cyclones, 2 major coral bleaching events, and various attacks by the predator crown of thorns starfish. So, unsurprisingly, the outlook is that the condition has deteriorated.
The report says that climate change is escalating, which is increasing sea temperatures and killing off the coral reef, which is home to multitudes of sea creatures. Just a few years ago, marine heat waves caused such extreme bleaching that about half of the corals on the reef were killed. And the report warns it will continue to deteriorate if action is not taken now.
With the right mix of local actions to improve the resilience of the system and global actions to tackle climate change in the strongest and fastest way possible, we can turn that around.
Spanning more than 2,300 kilometers, the Great Barrier Reef is teeming with life, including 400 types of coral and 1,500 species of fish and 4,000 types of mollusks. Some scientists say a small measure of help may be on the way for this largely man-made problem from nature itself. A chunk of floating lava rock the size of Manhattan is drifting down the Australian coast over the next few months. Experts say it could be like a special delivery of sea life for the reef, as the porous rocks are full of barnacles and corals, which could find a new home in an underwater world that has already lost so much. I'm Rick Fulbaum. Thanks for watching CNN Newsroom. I'll have more news coming up at the top of the hour.
So it could be that I was right about Lorenzo being a messenger in a way. Lorenzo's on the name list, Melissa's on the name list, and Melissa means honeybee. And it was when I said Kinglake West equals 137 and 173 people died in that disaster. Well, that was exactly when the bee landed on my thumb. They say honeybees are oracular, and so are birds. So I guess you just never know. Lorenzo and Melissa, maybe they do something together. I don't know. But it makes sense that if you're going to have a messenger to warn people about a monster, like the torturers of the DJ, then it's going to come before the torturer to warn. Hey, there's a torturer coming. There's something real bad coming. You know, like the torturer of the DJ reflected in
Dos Santos in Kazakhstan, and this is CNN.
the weather.
Hurricane Dorian's threat is growing as it makes its way towards Florida and the Bahamas. We'll take you live to both locations. Plus, Hong Kong police arrest some of the most public leaders behind the movement. The latest details from Hong Kong, that's ahead. And as blazes continue to scorch throughout the globe at an extraordinary pace, scientists and environmentalists question what's next. We'll have that report and more coming up. Welcome to CNN Newsroom. I'm Rick Fulbaum.
Gabriel is the monster.
Thanks for joining us. And our top story this hour, preparations for the potentially extremely dangerous Hurricane Dorian. We heard from U.S. President Donald Trump just a short time ago. He said he'll attend a briefing on the storm Sunday morning, roughly 24 hours before it could hit the U.S.
The hurricane is roaring and it could be a big one. We're hoping that it maybe makes a right and goes up north, but that's about a 5% chance. It's not looking good. And it's one of the biggest hurricanes we've seen in a long time. So it could be very devastating.
Dorian was upgraded to Category 3 Friday, which means it's now considered a major hurricane. Forecasters say it's expected to hit the Bahamas on Sunday. Hurricane warnings are in effect there, and the Bahamian Prime Minister is telling people in vulnerable areas not to be foolish and try to ride it out. And the entire state of Florida is now under a state of emergency, bracing for the worst-case scenario. Officials are urging people to stockpile a week's worth of food and supplies, fuel up their cars, and get cash out of ATMs in case the power goes out. The storm is expected to gain more intensity over the warm waters of the Caribbean in the coming days, but forecasts for the U.S. could still change, and some models do show Dorian skirting Florida. Let's bring in meteorologist Tom Sater now for more on the path of the storm, along with CNN's Patrick Ottman, who's covering preparations in the Bahamas. And Tom, let me start with you, because in a couple of moments we're going to speak with the mayor of a town called Sebastian, Florida, which right now, if we look at the models, is sort of has a bullseye right on it, right? What does he have to prepare himself and the residents there for?
I think everybody needs to prepare for anything. I mean, one thing, Rick, that we've learned the last couple of days, this is anybody's ball game. It's just been amazing. 2 years ago, when Irma, after Maria, moved through, was devastating, Category 5 on the coast of Cuba, came up from the south, and it played games with everybody in Florida. They were all traveling to one side of the state, and then the path shifted, and they are traveling back. This is chaotic because nobody knows where to evacuate from. Nobody knows really where all the resources should be put and the supplies, because we still don't know where landfall will be. This has been changing each and every day. The models are in agreement getting here, but they've been changing every day. Some of them put it right into the Gulf of Mexico, then up to the north. A few outliers took it out into the open water, some down in the Keys, but now we're seeing this turn toward the north sometime in the future. But when will that happen? We're starting to get better idea of some of the models, and if we put two together here, one is the color-coded area, and the other is our isobars, we all agree it's headed right for Freeport, and this is going to be a mess for them. But then what happens? The trend is now, look at the European model, stays offshore. Everybody has been asking for days, is there any way? Is there any way we could miss this? And it really looked like that window was shutting. But now this gives us a little bit of an opening. And even the other models that have been to the north and coming up across northern Florida are now starting to trend to the east. And that's all we can hope for right now. But this is a monster of a storm, and it will reach Category 4 status. And there's no doubt about it that the Bahamas are really in for it. Now, some of the warnings have been issued there. There are still some watches. I'll give you an idea. But this is a well-defined engine right now, and it is firing on all cylinders. There is no reason to believe it will not reach Category 4. In fact, some models even put it close to what could be a Category 5. Here are the warnings in the Bahamas right now. Watch is still to the south. But as we watch this system, everybody wants to know, when should I start boarding up my place? I mean, how many days do I have? Well, a couple of days ago, it looked like you had 1 day. And now we have tomorrow, and now we have into Sunday, Rick. But again, those tropical storm force winds, you cannot put up, plywood when those winds really start to blow. The problem is we can't answer that right now. I would just tell everyone along that coast to start right now and get ready to move, because it looks like this thing may just hug the coast.
Tom Sater, thanks very much, Tom. Let's go to Patrick Ottman, who is in the Bahamas. And Patrick, you just heard what Tom said. The Bahamas is going to get it. Are people there prepared for it?
As much as they can, because only in the last few days has it really kind of changed course, and people in the Bahamas have become aware that they are in the center of the bullseye of the storm. So people have been scrambling on an island like this where so many items are imported and they're brought in by ship. The store shelves are pretty much clean, and people have been racing to get prepared. We came on one of the last flights earlier today, and the airport was going to be shut down this afternoon. We were told we've been feeling the winds pick up steadily. We've been watching people take their boats out of the water, get them to places on shore or perhaps in marshes where they think they can safely keep them during the storm. And at this point, if you are here on the island of Grand Bahama, you are stuck here. You can't get out by plane, you can't get out by boat. You've got to get away from some of the low-lying areas to get to safety. But at this point, there is no hope, if you're here, of missing this storm, because it is coming this way, and people who are in its path are going to have to suffer the impacts of that storm.
Upman live for us, Patrick, in Freeport, Bahamas. Thanks very much, Patrick. Well, the state of Florida not taking any chances with this storm. The power company there mobilizing the Coast Guard is issuing advisories. Local officials making decisions about evacuations. We mentioned the city of Sebastian. It's on Florida's east coast, and it is tracking the hurricane very closely to see if it is in the danger zone, and it looks like it is. Joining us now is the mayor of Sebastian, Jim Hill. He's on the line with us. Mr. Mayor, it's good to talk to you, and it looks like you are right smack in the middle of where this storm could make landfall. Are you ready?
Hey, Rick, thanks for having me on this evening. You know, I'm not sure you're ever ready for something as big as what's coming, but, you know, the city of Sebastian has been through these things on occasion. You know, we've seen these storms come in toward our coast. We've seen them go north. We've seen them go south. We've seen them come straight through us a couple of times. So, you know, the citizens of Sebastian are very well prepared. We thought this storm might have been here on Sunday, so we actually started preparing a few days ago. And, you know, folks started fueling up their cars and getting gas in their tanks and purchasing water and basically making sure they were ready in case this storm does come here. Now, it does look like we're going to certainly feel the impacts of the storm, so the city of Sebastian has gone into high gear, making sure that all the assets of the citizens are taken care of. City Hall's all buttoned up. Our parks are taken care of. We've gotten all of the debris and anything that would be projectiles from our parks, and we're good there. We're just trying to inform our citizens now to have a plan and be ready to do whatever it is they need to do at the end of the day. And that end of the day looks like now it's going to be coming at around Monday or Tuesday, so we got an extra couple days of planning here. Shutters are going up. Everyone's getting ready. Those who are leaving now. And, you know, we're sort of experts at this, Rick.
Yeah.
So, and it's unfortunate, but, you know, we're ready for this storm as much as we can be.
Yep, it's not your first rodeo there. How about evacuations, Mayor Hill? What would it take for those orders to go into effect, to tell the people of Sebastian and some of the other areas around you to try to get out of the area and leave your homes?
Yeah, that's a great question. The city of Sebastian, when we call for evacuations, those are basically dictated by the state of Florida. And those evacuations will start coming from our EOC in the state of Florida over the next several days. So as we get those, we'll start telling people in our manufactured home communities or low-lying areas that it's time to go. We have a lot of shelters that are being set up for our people. We have hotlines, and of course 911 is always available. We are very proactive when dealing with these types of events, and our citizens are as well. We're very well trained, but, you know, we do have some new people that move into Florida every year. So, you know, we got to get them trained, and, you know, we're going to be ready for this thing when it comes. You know, I pray for the people in the Bahamas. I know they're going to get hit, and I pray for the people of Sebastian, and I hope we don't get hit, but if we do, I know we'll be great, and we will do whatever it is to make Sebastian the place that it is today going forward. So we're ready for it, and we hope it doesn't come.
Beautiful city, Sebastian, and one of the prime surfing locations. A lot of people know Sebastian for its waves. Mayor Jim Hill, good luck to you and everybody else in Sebastian. We'll be keeping you in our thoughts.
Thank you very much. Great fishing spot, too. Don't forget about that.
Okay, good. All right. Coming up next on CNN Newsroom, tense days in the Middle East, and a warning that escalating the situation could have unforeseen consequences. We'll talk about it next.
Yeah, war. It's kind of like trying to help people and then they have wars to kill people. It doesn't make much sense, really. Like all the developments to help people, medical developments, and then weapons to kill. Oh well, that's how it is. It's always been that way. But sometimes humans band together and they say, you know, that crosses the line. The Nazis crossed the line. And human rights are important. If you don't focus on human rights, things go wrong. And they don't go wrong in a little way, they go wrong in a big way. So I actually am calling on people to boycott Singapore until this torture victim, Ming Yuen, is released. because you can't have someone who's been tortured held in the captivity of his torturers. And he is doing something useful. He's giving people a warning about Gabriel, a monster torturer, a reflection of his torturer. The sadist that tortured him is going to be reflected in a monster hurricane named Gabriel.
It's urgent.
The shadow of God is Gabriel. Gabriel is not Gabriel. Gabriel is not. Gabriel is not the archangel. It's the monster authoritarian torturer.
Amanpour, Tuesday to Saturday on CNN.
The World Health Organization is warning that the fires raging in the Amazon are a health risk, especially for kids. Officials say those with pre-existing conditions like asthma are more vulnerable to the smoke, and that pollutant particles will remain in the air for a long time. And as our Hala Garani reports, the Amazon isn't the only place in flames right now.
Fires are burning around the globe. Flames in the Amazon, consuming the world's largest rainforest, suffocating the lungs of the world.
This is not just a forest burning, this is almost a cemetery, because all you can see is dead.
Blazes in Siberia are burning at historic rates because of rising temperatures.
The point of no return is almost here.
Flames are also burning in Alaska, Thailand, Greece, Spain, Portugal, Bolivia, raising fears of even hotter temperatures in the future and the potential for more fires that would keep releasing additional carbon dioxide while at the same time killing more vegetation. Scientists say the only solution is urgently adopting a more sustainable way of life.
Land is where we live. Land is undergoing human pressure.
A number of celebrities are also speaking out about the potential global catastrophe.
That we've gone this far and we not only haven't been able to stop it and protect it and express to all people around the world the value of it, and for people doing business to prioritize human beings and oxygen and our future over immediate commerce is absurd.
And even the Pope is expressing concern.
We are all worried about the vast fires that have developed in the Amazon. Let us pray so that with the commitment of all, they can be put out soon. That lung of forests is vital for our planet.
The next question on the mind of scientists and environmentalists: what comes next?
If greenhouse gas emissions continue to increase or do not decrease, then many regions, especially in the tropics, would see novel, unprecedented climatic conditions in terms of mean temperature, but also seasonal cycles or extreme events.
Hala Garani, CNN, London.
Thanks for watching CNN Newsroom. I'm Rick Fulbaum. World Sport coming up next, but first, I'll be back with a quick look at the headlines right after this.
DJ Ming. Former DJ Ming. I have feelings too. I have feelings too. I might be young, but I have feelings too. It's in his lyrics. I listened to one of his mixes yesterday. I actually found it while making a video, which was kind of weird in itself. I just clicked on a photo and found his music mix while making a video. That's weird in itself. Singapore is not that far from Indonesia. It's next door. A small place, small DJ. A reflection of his torturers. A reflection is red. He can only dream in red. Why? Because he was tortured. Angel in jail, imprisoned by his torturers. I can only dream in red. That's a lyric from Red Rain by Peter Gabriel. Pretty good song. relevant.
Hello, I'm Rick Fulbaum. This is CNN News Now. Dorian is now a Category 3 hurricane, which means it's now considered to be a major storm. And forecasters say it's likely to get even stronger as it heads towards the U.S. state of Florida. Dorian is set to hit the Bahamas on Sunday. Hurricane warnings went up there a couple of hours ago. U.S. President Trump has canceled a trip to Poland in order to keep an eye on Dorian. He's going to the Camp David retreat, but will participate in a briefing on the storm on Sunday morning. It'll be without a permanent administrator of the Federal Emergency Management Agency. Mr. Trump says he's not concerned that the current administrator is serving only in an acting capacity. Former British Prime Minister John Major has joined a lawsuit against the current Prime Minister Boris Johnson to stop him from suspending the UK Parliament ahead of Brexit. Mr. Johnson suspended Parliament earlier this week, increasing the chances of a no-deal Brexit in October. A mass rally planned for Saturday in Hong Kong has been canceled. Organizers failed to get the official authorization, and several pro-democracy activists were arrested. Police expect protesters to gather again anyway for a 13th straight weekend of demonstrations. And that's your CNN News Now. I'm Rick Fulbaum. Stay tuned for World Sport, which begins next.
China doesn't exactly have a great record on human rights. Interestingly, the DJ, the former DJ, is part Chinese, part Singaporean, and he's British. Huh? Well, he's born in London, so he's British. His dad's Chinese, his mum's Singaporean. His uncle lives in Singapore. He fled to Singapore because he was a naughty boy in England, and Scotland Yard were after him for selling fake IDs, fake driver's licenses. They called him a con man, but he's not a con man. He was just doing something illegal and naughty. His clients, other people under the age of 18, wanting to get into clubs, wanting to buy alcohol, wanting to do the things that adults do, well, they knew what they were getting wasn't a real driver's license. It was fake. They knew that. They were paying £35, £25 for a fake driver's license, and he made a killing out of it. You would think £100,000 is a lot of money, and yet when he came to Singapore, he had nothing. He had $300 to his name, because he spent it all on his friends. That's the kind of guy he is. He spent it all on computer stuff and his friends. He's a DJ. So computer stuff and friends. That's his world. Friends can get you into a lot of trouble. He went to Singapore partly because he thought it would be harder to buy drugs in Singapore. Harder to buy drugs in Singapore. Which it is. But the people he became friends with in Singapore were rich expats, advertising executives and the like, who were drug users. And he agreed to buy drugs and sell drugs to them, his new friends in Singapore. And that's what he got caught with, is drugs in Singapore. So he's a drug trafficker, convicted drug trafficker. A lot of people say the DJ deserves what he gets. But I think even the people who say that, some are just sickos, sadists, cruel-hearted. Some, but others may not fully understand what a caning in Singapore means. It's Category 5. Category 5 caning is not something you can understand unless you've experienced it. It's just like a Category 5 hurricane. So he's warning people. I've been talking about Jacksonville in Florida in relation to Hurricane Gabriel. Michael is Michael, Archangel. Gabriel, Archangel. Gabriel is not Gabriel. Hurricane Michael was not Archangel Michael. He was no protector. He was a demon, destroyer, sadist. Anyone who supports what they did to this man, knowing what they did to this man, aware of the details, is a sicko, a sadist, and a torturer. And I am calling on the world, the Western world, the world that celebrates freedom, democracy, the world that made laws against torture after World War II, after it became clear what the Nazis had done to various minority groups. International laws were made to safeguard human rights. And I'm calling on the Western world, Australia, England and the USA, and a lot of other countries, France, Germany, New Zealand, Belgium, Ireland, Scotland, Wales, I'm calling on a lot of countries who are generally regarded as being freedom-loving countries, to boycott Singapore until this man is released. Because you can't have a situation where someone who is the victim of torture is being held captive by his torturers. It's just not okay. In jail, deprived of everything that we take for granted, in the captivity of his torturers. You just can't have that. It's just not okay. It's not okay. Not in this world, not in any world. And if that doesn't happen, if we just leave him to suffer in the clutches of his torturers, it's not okay. It's so wrong. What it means is the Nazis won the war. Hitler won. And if you're okay with that, if you're okay with Hitler won the war, so there's no point celebrating Anzac Day or Remembrance Day or any of those things, because it's all just waste. There's nothing to celebrate. Well, if you're okay with that, then don't boycott Singapore. And don't care about the DJ. And don't care about his message. Warning, reflection, whatever you want to call it. Gabriel is not Gabriel, but the DJ is a son of Gabriel. He's a loving boy. A loving boy man. A loving boy man of Gabriel. And his torture is going to be reflected in Gabriel. Hurricane Gabriel. She's no angel. She's definitely no angel. She's a monster. So, World Sport is on. We'll come up to the news again. There'll be another update on the Hurricane Dorian. Dorian. I could go with Dorian the Destroyer. I mean, it works. Dorian the Destroyer. Here we go, another update. So we'll check this out now. But I'm going with Dorian the DJ, the messenger, the boy of Gabriel.
The storm is getting stronger and could go stronger still. That much we know. The two key questions now, where will Hurricane Dorian hit and what will it do after it does? John Berman here in for Anderson. In just a few days, we've seen Dorian go from a tropical storm to a hurricane that could reach Category 4 intensity before this is over. And with millions of people at risk tonight, those two key questions could mean their world or their lives. We just got new data in from the National Hurricane Center, so let's go right to Tom Sater in the CNN Hurricane Headquarters. Tom, walk me through the new forecast and what does it tell us about what the storm is doing now?
Well, John, we learned a lot today, but in the latest advisory, when the pressure drops, the storm gets stronger. And once that pressure drops, the winds pick up. We just seen a 20 millibar drop. Now, I don't want to get scientific, but that is the greatest drop of pressure that we have seen between one advisory and the next advisory since the birth of Dorian. This time last night, it was a Category 1, expecting at 11 p.m. last night to become a 2, and it did. At 11 a.m. this morning, it became a Category 3, and we're almost at Cat 4 now. That pressure drop increased some winds to 125 miles per hour. That's only 5 miles per hour away from Category 4 status. And one way to know this before it occurs is we've all seen radars and you see a well-defined eye. But when you see an eye on a satellite imagery, you know that motor is firing on all cylinders. See the white color that was surrounding that core? This thing is breathing. And again, that fuel line really soaking up some of that extremely warm water that's only going to get warmer. A different change today, we had the hurricane watches for the Bahamas increased in some areas to warnings. I suspect by tomorrow morning, we're going to have hurricane watches for the coast of Florida. Other changes have occurred, and that's pretty much the track. And this is important. I know everybody has been saying, is there any hope? Is there any ray of hope? There is a ray. I mean, it's not the entire hope sunshine shining down, but all of the models still showing consistency. And right now, still showing a landfall with a Category 4. That's catastrophic damage. I want to back up to what it looked like earlier when the several models we use. Of course, we always talk about the U.S. model in red and the European model. Both have pros and cons. The European sometimes is a little more reliable, but, you know, sometimes we just make an agreement between the two. 2 days ago, John, it was up in Jacksonville. Then it dropped down to the south and shooting across areas into the Gulf. And then the European model kind of put on the brakes, and we thought, whoa, what's happening here? When the storms put on the brakes, it allows the surrounding environment to kind of decide, all right, we've got some time. Where are we going to push this thing? Here is now the same time period with the U.S. model at 8 p.m. Tuesday, and it's south of Melbourne. Sebastian, maybe Vero Beach. And then you got the European, same time period, 8 p.m. Tuesday, almost on the same latitude, but offshore. Here's our ray of hope now. The National Hurricane Center has issued its new warning, and I'll show you the path, not a warning, excuse me. But first, let's put the two together. In blue is the European. You cannot see the U.S. model because they agree. It's underneath it. Watch what happens when we continue to roll out both of these models. Now, again, this is not going to be written in stone, but it's the only guidance we have, and it's been changing day to day, and it could easily change again. American model, landfall. European model, offshore, and it stays offshore. There's your ray of hope. The trend is eastward. Instead of up to the north, crossing across the peninsula into the Gulf, down to the south, let's see what happens when we merge the two, and that's what the National Hurricane Center has done. Still landfall at Category 4. Remember 3 years ago? Matthew came in and raked A1A pretty much along the coastline. This, however, John, if we get in closer, could be disastrous because the population, since Andrew in 92, last time we had a major hurricane, is significant on the East Coast. If this happens, it's close enough to the water to continue to feed. It continues as a 4 to a 3, stays as a hurricane, Category 2 to the north. Dropping heavy amounts of rain on a ground that is already completely saturated. So again, we're going to continue to watch these. They could change, but the ray of hope we've been waiting for, maybe that trend will push it further away.
All right,
Matthew, by the way, was record rainfall, flooding in, of course, the Carolinas. That wasn't good either.
Not good for the Carolinas. Something at least to hope for Florida, though. Tom Sater, thank you very much. For much more on the new storm data, let's go right to the source. The National Hurricane Center in Miami. Ed Rappaport is Deputy Director. He joins us now. Ed, this new forecast is what you expected to see. Has the storm changed in any way?
Well, the storm has changed in the last few hours in terms of its intensity. Earlier today, it reached Category 3 status, and now it's very close to Category 4. We just increased the wind in the advisory, most recent advisory, by 10 miles per hour, now 125 miles per hour. And as you've been talking about, it's really not so much the intensity that's in question, it's the track of the hurricane. And while we do have one model that's offshore and another one that's on the shoreline yesterday was almost reversed. So I don't think what we need to do right now is focus too much on the little details. What will be important in the long run, at this point it's way too soon to know what the impacts are going to be. And for that reason, what we're telling people is everybody in the state of Florida needs to be prepared, particularly in the eastern half, because we don't know whether the storm will make the turn on the coast or just offshore or just inland. Everybody has about a day, day and a half to complete their preparations, and that's what we're advising at this point.
No, that's right. Just to be clear, you're talking about a possible storm that runs the entire gamut of the East Coast, Miami, northward of Miami, all the way up to Jacksonville, and maybe even a second direct impact in Jacksonville, correct?
Yeah, here's the forecast track, and to get everybody familiar with what we're doing here, these are the forecast points over the next 5 days, roughly every 12 to 24 hours. So the center is forecast to come up to the coast and turn just about the time it gets to the coast. Again, we don't know whether it'll be there or just barely inland, just offshore. Those are details we don't know and won't know yet for another day or maybe even day and a half. They're very important, but at this point, without knowing those details, with having this uncertainty, it's important for everybody to prepare along the Florida coast.
Talk to me about the water here. The king tide, extremely high tides, coupled with a storm surge, which I understand could be even bigger if the storm slows down, yes?
Yes. One thing that's fortunate for the east coast of Florida is that the storm surge that occurs here isn't as high as it can be in other places, and the effect of tides isn't as great. But you're right, the additive effects of a high tide, particularly if we go through multiple cycles of a high tide, will exacerbate the conditions. It'll make it worse. We have storm surge with the winds blowing onshore for perhaps 12 to 24 hours in some places. Don't have the amounts yet in terms of what kind of surge to expect, but storms in the past of this intensity have brought a surge of on the order of 10 feet or even higher to the Florida East Coast.
All right, Admiral Report, thank you so much for being with us. I think the key message here is don't pay as close attention to the tracks right now as paying attention to getting yourself ready and prepared if you live anywhere on the East Coast of Florida. Ed, thank you very much for that.
Thank you.
We're going to have much more on the storm preps we've just been talking about, and as we began reporting last night, Floridians are certainly taking this one seriously. The governor has asked for and received a pledge of federal disaster assistance. Highway express lanes are being reconfigured to help evacuations go more smoothly, and of course, people have been boarding up and stocking up. Randy Kay has been seeing it all day. She joins us now from a Home Depot in West Palm Beach. Randy, tell me, what's it been like there today? Are people doing what they need to do?
So they certainly seem to be. It's been incredibly busy here actually since Tuesday. That's when it all started. That's when they put Florida on that hurricane map. So people have been pouring in trying to get their supplies. But I just spoke to one of the employees here at this Home Depot, and he told me that they have done a week's worth of business today in just one day. So really now it's coming down to the wire for these folks. Floridians have been through this. They know how to prepare. What they're looking for right now, it seems tonight, mainly is plywood, John. Let me just show you what the shelves look like over here. They're empty. You see those shelves there? That's usually plywood stacked all the way up. And then if you come over here to this side, in this aisle, this is what's going on. Plywood has now just come in. A truck has just delivered it. And they're not even bothering to put it on the shelves because it goes so fast. If you pan over here, you can see these shelves are empty too. And then keep panning, and there's the line of folks waiting to get plywood. That's how busy this is. They're also looking for tarps, flashlights, propane, batteries, generators. Of course, they are out of generators here. Luckily, they're not out of plywood. Another thing that people are told is to have at least 3 to 7 days worth of water. They want 1 gallon per person for every 3 days here in the state of Florida. That is what's ideal. They don't have any water here, and they don't expect to have any water in this store for at least another day or so. So that is the situation here, John. I went to some other big supply stores yesterday trying to get water for our crew as we are preparing for the hurricane, and I could get a few bottles. I went at 7 a.m. again this morning trying to get more water. There was already a line at this supermarket, and most of the water was already gone, John.
Hopefully they'll get more shipments in. Randy, for the people you've been speaking with, do they plan to leave the coast or ride the storm out at home?
A lot of folks are riding the storm out because, you just looked at those models, those spaghetti models. It's unclear where this storm is going to hit. So people are saying, well, if I live on the coast and then I go inland, what if it hits inland? So they just don't know where to go because right now the whole state is in danger, all 67 counties. They've declared a state of emergency. So, I know I spoke to my neighbors. They're riding out the storm on a high floor in a high-rise building. My brother who lives here in Florida riding out the storm with his family. Most of these folks getting plywood also riding out the storm with their families. In fact, we ran into this gentleman here, Carlos Mayo, who's also riding out the storm. Is this your plywood right here?
This is our plywood, yeah.
And you came back for more, or is this all you need?
We had planned this about 4 or 5 days ago, but we ran about 4 or 5 sheets short. So we just came by, and we're just grateful they had plywood.
Yeah, so you planned in advance. You were already doing your own. And you're going to ride out the storm and be around with your family? You're not going to leave the state? Or?
Well, I work as a firefighter along with my son, so we're both going to be on duty starting tomorrow. But the idea behind it is to leave our family secure, so we're kind of used to it. We've been doing it for a while. So.
How many hurricanes have you been through here?
Oh, I guess going back to Katrina was probably the worst of it. We rode that one out. We weren't hit quite as bad during Katrina because we were further north. But
I should mention there is no evacuation order in place, so you have the freedom to ride it out.
Yes, I'm very secure in our home and everything we've done, the preparations. My family will be okay, and I know that we got to go out and do what we have to do to help everybody else's families during the storm. So
many people, John, as I said, riding it out. I mean, you look at this line, just one more quick pan. They're all here to get plywood to board up their homes so they can stay home and be safe as they do so. So we will continue to watch it here at Home Depot, and hopefully they won't run out of plywood tonight.
Wow, it feels like the center of the universe tonight there, Randy. But as you said, the problem with evacuations, it's not clear where it would even be safe to go at this point. They have to wait for the forecast to be updated. Randy K., thank you so much. Let's go next to Daytona Beach, where the city's mayor, Derek Henry, joins us now. Mayor Henry, thank you so much for being with us. I'm sure you've been looking at the current forecast along with the rest of us. Based on what you see, what are you most concerned about right now?
That people will, in our area, begin to let their guards down, which we do not want. We recognize that we do not have full clarity at this time, and as we gain more clarity, we can act with greater assurance as to what it is that we should do, both as a municipality and to take care of our individual families.
Some of the decisions on evacuations for the whole state have been difficult because of the uncertainty around this storm. Do you have any plans to evacuate the Barrier Island section of Daytona Beach?
Well, right now, our police, and I will join them on tomorrow, are out sharing with